All right, well, hopefully you found that kind of interesting. You could see the group was under stress. Actually, this is kind of a haunting clip to watch after coronavirus, right? Because the idea is that some kind of pathogen has started spreading in this town, and they have to decide whether they just want to annihilate the town and kill everybody who's there to prevent this pathogen from spreading around. So here we have a group that's under stress. We have a powerful leader, and we've got a short time frame. And he says, I want to hear your ideas. And if you don't say it here, I don't want to hear it later that you were talking about it somewhere else. Like, this is the time, this is the place, this is when we're supposed to talk about it. But this is all being just sprung on the cabinet. They're all like, what are we even talking about? I don't even, can you please bring me up to speed, right? And now I'm supposed to make a decision. Really classic kind of situation where groupthink would emerge. So we have factors that are going on with the group members that contribute to them displaying groupthink. One is that they want group acceptance more than they want to make a correct decision. And, you know, of course, I think everybody, you could argue, they want to make good decisions. But, you know, the much more pressing issue might be being accepted by the group in the face of possibilities of the future. What we did was not the right thing to do, right? Like in outbreak, knowing that we're all in alignment and getting along with the group might be more important than deciding to bomb or not bomb this town, because bombing or not bombing the town might or might not be the right decision in the long run. Like, there's no way for us to really know that. I think the same thing with the Bay of Pigs invasion. It might have gone right. So trying to fit in with this group who I know I have to see tomorrow and I know I have to see for the rest of this administration, versus making a decision about something that is far away from me and may or may not go right or wrong. And I don't know, there's no way to know that in advance. I'm going to try and maintain group cohesion first and foremost. Group members tend to censor themselves when displaying groupthink. They may be thinking something contrary. They may be wanting to say something else, but they're silencing themselves. They don't want to raise their hand. They don't want to say, well, have you thought about this? So they censor themselves. A lot of times they're deprived of information. I think in the outbreak clip, it's really clear that they don't have the opportunity to search for information. There's nothing, like, they have to make the decision without any additional information. All I have is what I presume to be the president presented to me, and I have to decide. I don't have full information. I don't have the time to get all the information. And so I may be making a decision that's not appropriate in the long run. And that makes me censor myself because I'm like, I don't know if am I interpreting this right? Group members oftentimes evaluate information in a biased way when in a situation that fuels groupthink. You know, having Kennedy come in and say, I think this is what we should do, causes the group members to sort of interpret all the information through the lens of, you know, I'd have to say I disagree with the president if I am going to object, right? And so that may cause me to look for anything that would imply that the president is right so I can go along with him, right? Like, I don't want to have that moment where I'm saying, I disagree with you, president, who appointed me to this position. So Janice developed a theory of the factors that go into groupthink. So the antecedents, you know, before you've made a decision, so you're setting the stage for groupthink to occur. The group is highly cohesive. The group is closed to outside opinions. The group has a strong directive leader. It does not have systematic procedures to evaluate alternatives, and the group feels high stress or external threat. I think we could probably argue that at least 4 out of those 5 were present in the outbreak issue. I can't say whether that cabinet is highly cohesive. I'm going to guess they probably are. Cabinets oftentimes feel a lot of loyalty to themselves and to the president, you know, to their own group. But I'm going to say probably at least 4 out of the 5 were apparent in that clip. So now groupthink occurs, right? A strong desire for group consensus occurs. So some of the characteristics that let you know that this is probably a groupthink decision is that the group feels invulnerable, like nothing bad is going to happen to them. I mean, in the outbreak clip, if they bomb that city, the pathogen for sure isn't going to make it to these guys and women, right? Like it'll take care of it for them at least. It's not going to affect their families or anybody that they personally know. The group assumes its position is moral. Like, I have to make this decision because it's the right thing for everybody else. Like, I'm the one who gets to decide what's right and what's wrong. The group discounts challenges and rationalizes its own position, right? So if anybody does say something, maybe it's coming from the newspaper and not from the group or something like that, against this decision, they say, oh, well, that's the other side. And of course they wouldn't agree with us, or they didn't know the full information, or, it's easy for them to say they didn't have to make a hard decision like this, or other ways to discount any challengers and to rationalize their own position. Hey, man, we had to make a quick decision. What else were we supposed to do? Those kinds of justifications. A lot of times we can stereotype our opponents. With the Kennedy cabinet and deciding to back the Bay of Pigs, they did not like Castro. And so they can stereotype the Castro regime and anybody who would fight to defend them and stuff like that, and try and actually in their mind maybe make them seem weaker and easier to overcome. And that helps to boost their confidence that the decision that they're making was the right one. Group members do not express their doubts or disagreements. Like I said, they oftentimes self-censor. The group members are afraid to rock the boat. They don't want to look disloyal, those kinds of things. Those who do disagree are pressured by the other members of the group to conform. So there's that social norm kind of conformity in play, where if I speak up, I know that my peers are going to let me know that I've actually done something wrong. And, I have to do something to sort of get back into the group's good graces. So maybe it's just better to be silent. Let's see how this works out. And then there's that illusion of unanimity that I mentioned before, right? The sense that because nobody is objecting, it's because everybody agrees. So you end up with these poor decision-making consequences, right? Where, you're not thinking about the objectives or alternative actions or the risks of the chosen alternative, or, have we considered all the relevant information? Are we being biased? Do we have a backup plan if things don't go the way we expect them to? They just oftentimes will let those things go because they've become overconfident, they're invulnerable, they're on the right side. So groupthink is clearly something that we would want to avoid. I think that's pretty, I forgot, I blew it up for the larger class, but you guys don't need that. So how do we overcome this? Because it clearly sounds like, unless you're the powerful leader who you just want a bunch of yes men around you, I would say most of us don't want to see groupthink in the groups that we belong to. Here this guy says, well, I'm going to overcome groupthink in my committee by saying we need more dissenting opinions. And then, of course, everybody just agrees with him. So that's not really the way to get more dissenting opinions. So first thing, the leader probably should remain impartial, and he shouldn't come in saying, I already think this is what we should do, but should come in and say, here is our situation. A really smart leader might say, here's our situation. Come to the meeting prepared with your top 3 solutions, right? Like make them do their brainstorming and come with their ideas, and remain impartial. Be the person who's like weighing options rather than being the person who comes in and accidentally or intentionally causes the group to just go along with you. The leader should encourage dissent, even if the rest of the group kind of eyeballs their peer like, ugh, you're making this meeting take longer by dissenting. The leader should encourage dissent and say, oh, that's a great thing you brought up. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Let's talk about it. Let's consider it. He needs to be, or she needs to be, somebody who makes sure that the group members realize that the leader wants dissent and wants to hear other ideas. A really great idea is to divide the group up, like separate the cabinet into 2 subcommittees, ask them to discuss the same issue together, within their committee, and then come back together and see what they came up with. Now you could end up with complete group polarization where the 2 groups end up completely entracted with their idea because they came up with such disparate ideas. But it's possible that they might come up with the same basic solution. And so now we feel more confident in the decision because 2 independent groups came up with the same basic solution. Or they might have just very slightly different approaches that maybe we could compromise and bring them together. Appoint someone in the group as the devil's advocate, or one in each of the groups to be the devil's advocate. And your job is it's not you being questioning of your peers' logic. You have been appointed to be the person who says, let's think about this from the other side. Like, that's my sole purpose in this committee, is to try and tear down what you guys have come up with so that we can find out whether it really is the best idea. Pursue additional information, right? The opposite of what was on the list as a bad is to go out and actually consult outside experts. Don't just rely on this group. In that outbreak piece, the big thing was secrecy, right? Because if we tell the town that we're about to bomb them, obviously people are going to leave, right? So it cannot leave this room. Well, then that means by definition, we can't consult any outside experts because it'll get out of this room. Having that kind of pressure and limiting outside information is going to lead to poorer decisions. So here's a fun game that I wish you could play here, but I think it's actually available on the internet. So I'm going to link it. And this is a dilemma game. So I'm going to link it in our module for this week, and you can play it if you feel like it. And I'll come back after in the next segment and I'll explain to you what the premise is, and hopefully you have played the game in the meantime, so that you're not tainted for the actual gameplay. So, okay, I will see you in the next segment.